Social Security set to run out 2035 is the new timeline that we have been given. My name is Jeff Miles. I am with Glenn Johnson from Jabez Financial, and this is the Manumit podcast. You can check it out online at themanumitpodcast.com. Also, check out Glenn's website at jabezfinancial.com. So, Glenn, the new date is 2035. That's when supposedly Social Security, you will no longer be able to receive max benefits at that point. The election is coming up. You've got two different candidates with two different ideas on what they want to do with Social Security. Now, we could sit here right now and we could debate over who has a better one. But at the end of this election cycle, we're going to have to live with whoever ends up in that position, right? So
that's correct.
What does this mean for your clients? What does this mean when someone comes in and says, oh my gosh, Glenn, they're saying that Social Security is going to run out in 2035?
All right, great question. And the fact is they have overpromised and underdelivered. You know, recognize that the government can do nothing for you unless it first takes from you. So now if you're looking to retire in say 10 years or so, and you're trying to plan out what's going to happen in the future, well,
right.
The best thing you can do is not need them. You know, or the best way to protect yourself is to put yourself in a position where you have less to get back.
Right.
If you can structure your income, or if you can structure how you're earning money so that the less you pay in, the less you have to try to get back from them.
Right.
And so that comes from taxes or all kinds of expenses. And you know, so what's so angering about this is that people paid into Social Security in good faith that they were that the government was going to be financially responsible with their funds, and they were going to see a return on it. You know, a mentor of mine years ago told me, he says, you can't make a good deal with a bad person.
Right.
And so, unfortunately, yes, we have paid into Social Security. We have, and had the government been financially responsible with those dollars, it would have worked out wonderfully for everybody. But that's not the case.
Would you say that Social Security has strangely been almost like a one-way contract the entire time we've been paying into it?
Absolutely. You know, it's funny. You can pay into it your whole life, but if you die before you collect, they keep the money.
Right. You get nothing. And your family members, depending on, what stage you are in life, whether or not they're able to receive anything is also something that we don't have control over necessarily.
Right. You know, so with all of that, so with all of the uncertainty of what's the government going to do next, whoever gets elected, what are they going to do? This is where the only thing that we can do is take personal financial responsibility so that we don't need them. You know, there was, I remember a story of a pastor who was putting together a sermon for the next Sunday morning, and it was getting late Saturday night, and he was really struggling with his topic, and his son just kept knocking on his door, kept coming in. He says, Dad, can you play? Dad, can you play? Dad, can you play? And eventually his dad saw this newspaper with a picture of a world on it and said, you know what? I'm just going to I'm just going to take this picture. I'm going to rip it up, and gave it to him and say, all right, when you put this back together, then I'll have time to talk. And he's thinking, he doesn't know where Argentina is. He doesn't know where Australia is or Sweden. But 5 minutes later, he came back. He had put it all together. And he said to his son, he says, how did you do this? He said, well, Dad, I don't know where all these countries are, but on the other side of the paper was a picture of a man. And I know where the eyes go. I know where the nose and the mouth goes. So I figured if I put the man together right, the whole world would come together.
Wow, what a metaphor.
So he said, okay, I'm ready to play. I've got my topic. So when we get our lives together, when we get our own thinking straight, and we're making decisions for ourselves, and we've assumed responsibility for the direction of our own lives, regardless of who's in office, regardless of the decisions that they make, we still have the free will to choose to make wise decisions for ourselves. And done right, we won't need a penny of it.
So the idea is to literally make ourselves more self-sufficient, less reliant on outside sources for our own future.
Right, because we start off in life as dependents, and the objective is, all right, we're going to become increasingly independent.
And we can't wait to get to that place either.
That's right. So, because we're designed and created for community. In our efforts to become independent, we have also become increasingly dependent on the government, as opposed to becoming interdependent with those in our local communities. So we've lost the connection, we've lost the relationships that we have with our neighbors. We're not talking to our neighbors, we're just spending time on TV and trying to become more independent, rather than figuring out, how can I help my neighbor, literally my neighbor next door? What can I do for them? Let's establish these relationships within our local communities and let that be our support system rather than the government.
Let's start that relationship right now with Glenn and Jabez Financial. Glenn, the website for people to come and get to know you?
jabezfinancial.com. And obviously with the podcast, we've got theManumitPodcast.com.
So definitely make sure you bookmark both of those sites. You can get the podcast, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, and all of that good stuff wherever you find your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and get all of this great advice. Because, Glenn, there's one thing that you're doing right now that I find peace in, is that as we're talking about financial security, as we're talking about retirement, as we're talking about what for many is a very stressful time in their life, I'm feeling less and less stressed because, honestly, we're not talking about money right now.
That's right. And it's our money is such an significant aspect of our lives. However, I remember this past Christmas season, some friends of mine and I, we went to sing some Christmas carols at the nursing home, and we were saying some prayers with some of the people in there on finding out what was important to them. Not a single person asked for more money. Everything was about the relationships that they had with their family, or they wanted some physical healing. But money wasn't part of it.
Right.
And it's kind of like, when was the last time you had a conversation with somebody about oxygen?
Right.
I don't know. Right? Do you know why? Because you have enough of it.
Yeah.
And so therefore, if once we solve the financial problem where we have enough of it, now we don't have to think about it anymore. We can position our assets as, like, when we properly position our assets and increase our cash flow and learn enough about it so that we can give our dollars the correct assignment. Now we don't have to think about it anymore, and we can actually move on with life. And if everybody was all that interested in money, more people would be financial advisors.
Right. We all would, wouldn't we?
That's right. People ultimately just want to have enough to be comfortable so that they don't have to think about it. But in order to get to that point, you need to have the right financial education. You have to understand it, know how it works, have realistic expectations. And that doesn't happen just by accident. It
Right.
comes, and that's why I could make the point where there's two ways of learning: mistakes or mentors.
Mm-hmm.
So you can say, how many financial disasters do you want to live through before you finally get it? Or do you want to pursue the right mentors that can guide you and have care enough about your financial future more than your friendship? And that's another thing. A good mentor will care more about your success than you liking them.
A good parent would tell you that I'm not my child's best friend. I am their parent. This is kind of the same kind of relationship, I would say, right?
That's right. I mean, as a fiduciary, I'm not a hired friend. I'm hired to tell them the truth.
Right.
And because I can see the financial pitfalls before they get there. We're all ignorant on a different set of subjects, and this is what I know.
Right.
And so therefore I'm perfectly comfortable pointing out where the pitfalls are for each individual. And in the process, oddly enough, in the process, my clients have become great friends.
And my guess is they have not had to worry at all about their financial future. Because I will tell you right now, they wouldn't be great friends if you had ruined their financial future.
That's right.
I will say this about the Social Security topic, though, and if you were to speak directly to the people who are having that question in their mind right now, where does this affect when and how they should start to withdraw their Social Security?
Okay, there's a couple things to consider on that. If you're sitting at the crossroads right now and you're thinking, should I take Social Security today? If you're at that age at this point, the things you'd want to consider, number one, is how healthy are you and how long are you going to live?
Right.
And if you plan on living a long time, okay, that's one contributing factor. Another is, do you need it? Is your cash flow tight right now where even though you may feel like you're going to live to 120, you need it right now? That's a contributing factor. Then is there a survivor benefit? Are you married? There's a number of contributing factors. So to be able to tell somebody right now, should they take it or not, those are some of the things we need to consider. And leading up to that, for those that are maybe 5 years away from taking Social Security, this is where getting the right financial education becomes critically important, so that when you say, whether it be 2, 3, 5 years from now, when you do have to make that decision, you're intellectually equipped to make a wise decision. And it's almost as if I could say it's too soon to determine. For example, if you're going to retire in 3 years and you're saying, okay, am I going to take Social Security in 3 years or 6 years from now? In a way, it's still too soon to make that decision.
Right.
Because our world can change overnight. You remember 9/11? That changed things overnight. That changed the way we travel permanently.
It did.
That changed the way we're watched by Big Brother overnight. Those are things that aren't going away. Or we can think back just 4 years ago when COVID hit. That came out of the blue for a lot of us. And that changed nearly every aspect of life for almost everybody. And when there's situations like that, whether it be a 9/11, a COVID or something, what we can be sure of is that there will be something else.
Right.
And so this is where we need to be personally prepared so that regardless of what comes next, we'll still be okay.
Are there scenarios where taking it out early is beneficial to you and vice versa?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've had clients that they insisted on waiting till they were 70 to take it out because they were going to get the most, and then they passed away at 74. Then there's people that have been so anxious to take the money out at 62 because they were so fearful that the Social Security wasn't going to exist that they took it out at 62. And these are clients of mine 20 years ago. So that took it out when they were 62. And now they're kind of wishing they hadn't.
Kind of held off a little bit.
Right. So we want to make a decision. We want to make our decision from a position of strength and with wisdom. We don't want to make fear-based decisions. If we're making our decision to take Social Security now because I'm afraid it's going to run out, that's the wrong reason. If we want to take our decision, if we want to wait because we're afraid that we won't have enough later, that may be the wrong decision. Because when we're making...
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, how dependent is it on what your other financial assets are and how that affects maybe even your tax situation?
Well, like I said, that's another major contributing factor. Depending upon when you're taking Social Security, do you plan on are you still going to work? Like if you're taking it between 62 and 67, are you still planning on working? Are you going to pay increasing taxes on that? Or another thing to consider is once you retire and say, well, you know what? once I retire, if I'm going to work till I'm 67, maybe I'll wait till 67 to take Social Security. When I'm at a lower tax bracket, maybe that's when I'll start doing some Roth conversions. So start taking money out of the 401k or traditional IRA and converting it into Roth money. So there's definitely strategic tools and decisions you can make in the process so that once you retire, you don't have 100% of your money in qualified accounts where if you need to take out money to buy a car, you have to take out twice the amounts so you can give the government half.
Right.
Right. So look at maybe using a traditional IRA during the last couple of years of working is a better idea.
Right.
Knowing that you can convert it over into a Roth right afterward. And Social Security, when you take it, that plays that plays a big role in it because you've got to be able to lay out how much cash flow are you actually going to need during these first couple of years.
I would say that many people, especially as we get older, we think we know a lot more. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes, right?
Yeah.
Try to play armchair financial advisor. Oh, I know what I'm doing over here and all of that. And, you don't want to wait too late to talk to a financial advisor about your situation because a lot of these decisions are not something that you can wait until that last moment to necessarily plan for. And I think one of the greatest things about what you offer people is that it's not just going to be a numbers game. You get to know people. You get to know people and their relationship, especially if you have a spouse, how the two of them, what their relationship is like, not just on a spending level, but just on an actual relational level. And I think that that's what really helps people make the decisions with you that makes them feel so good.
And getting a husband and wife on the same page is so critically important. You think about it this way. Say you both want to travel to some specific destination. Sure. You get in the car and start driving, and she gets in the car and she's right behind you. And you've got the same destination. But then you skate through a yellow light and she's stuck at the red one. All right? It doesn't take much to get on the wrong page. Or maybe you're using Google Maps and she's using Waze and they both give you a different option, right? And so it gets confusing.
I'm only laughing right now because, Glenn, I'm not kidding you. My wife and I have literally had this, I don't want to call it an argument, but it has definitely been a debate about, well, if you would use Apple Maps or Google Maps, because we don't use the same one.
Right.
And if I'm driving, I'm using the one that I like. And if she's driving, she uses the one she likes. And inevitably, somehow, we will end up in the discussion of, if you use the one that I use.
Right. And, the thing is, how do you avoid the separation? Is you get in the same car.
And you also have someone like Glenn in the back seat to kind of help guide you on, hey, guys, I know it. Listen, both of you have a great idea. However, right? Because, sometimes you can debate until the cows come home and you're still right where you were when you started.
That's right.
I love that. I think that's what is going to I don't know, really speak to people when it comes to coming to see you and talk about their finances. Listen, I grew up, my grandfather was the kind of person, he was one of the biggest male figures in my life growing up. And it was like, you don't talk about your finances with anybody. And even I'm sure you've gotten that from people at times where it's hard to relinquish control, so to speak, of your financial information. And listen, it's the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Because otherwise, if you don't have all of that, how can you possibly make an educated decision and advise people in the right direction?
And that's where with the amount of financial or the amount of emotional vulnerability that comes along with full financial disclosure, that's why having the right relationship with the right advisor is so critically important. It's a matter of trust. And this is where as much as it's a numbers game and understanding the rules and the financial tools and that sort of thing, it's equally as important to establish the right relationships, Because if there isn't full disclosure, if there isn't a fluent dialogue, so that we can walk through these scenarios together, who knows if you're getting the right advice? I know there's people out there that are product shopping. They're saying, okay, I just want to have this for a life insurance policy, or I want to have this for an investment. I want to have this for whatever, and that's fine. We're happy to serve those people and give them the best thing that's available. But where we like to shine here is being able to walk with people through life's situations. Having done this for over 20 years, I can't tell you what it's like when you get the phone call and you say, my husband just passed away. Mm-hmm. And we're usually the first, if not usually the second, if not the first call they make. And walking with people through those times of tragedy and knowing that they're not having to go through it alone makes all the difference in the world. I tell you, I sit down with a couple, and maybe we're putting their wills together or establishing what's going to happen if something happens to me, and their biggest concern is, I want to make sure my wife is taken care of. I'll be okay no matter what, but I want to make sure my wife's okay if something happens to me. And I've been taking care of the finances all these years. Well, you know what? But what's going to happen when you go? That responsibility is entirely shifted upon her. And she may not have any clue about how finances work because she's had no desire, right? Now, at that point, in whose hands are you leaving her in? And this is where establishing that right relationship, so that when these men, if they pass away, knowing that they're passing along the financial burden to their spouse, if they can trust that, they say, well, you know what? She's got someone that she can trust, someone that I know that can walk with her through the remainder of her years. That's what brings peace. It's not just the $10 million or the $5 million or $100,000 or whatever it is. Are the relationships established?
There's so much in here that is, to me, so great, because I would say that for many people, married couples, the financial questions that are in your marriage, in your relationship, can be the heaviest. I mean, you hear it all the time that one of the biggest reasons for divorce a lot of times is because of financial reasons, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. And I do think that most people are usually thinking about, okay, what is going on right now in my finances? Well, you also need to be thinking about, well, what's going to be going on in your future when you do get ready to retire. And the idea here, Glenn, is for people to enjoy that and not live in a place where it puts not just a stress on their finances, but then it puts a stress on their relationship. The last thing you want to be doing in your golden years, as they say, is having problems in your marriage because you didn't quite plan correctly. That's right. And, the thing is that when we talk about like some major changes in life that may change the whole circumstances, right? Whether like we talked about earlier, whether it be a 9/11 or a COVID or something else where it changes the foundation that we're living in. Well, sometimes it can be a child that's strung out on drugs or has legal problems. Right. Or it could be a divorce that gets into the mix. These things hit suddenly and they hit hard. Right. And that's where are we prepared for the things that we don't see coming? I would say that with the question, kind of back to the Social Security topic here, for people who are currently retired and maybe they are relying a little heavy on it right now, maybe they haven't come to see you yet. For those people that are relying on it maybe a little heavy, and there is the heaviness of, oh my gosh, how long is this going to last? Especially as it pertains to how much of the benefit am I going to be able to take? What's the biggest takeaway that you can give them right now as far as putting them at ease, I would say? Well, I had a business partner for a long time, and she actually recently passed away about a week and a half ago. She was 25 years older than me, and she had more love in her than I can articulate.
And she would tell her clients, she said, you've made it this far, you'll make it the rest of the way.
You're right.
You'll be
We'll figure it
okay.
out.
That's right. And if you think back of all the life's challenges and hurdles that you've had to go through, and you've made it this far, you'll make it the rest of the way. And in the process, what we want to do is look at our circumstances right now, look at the resources we have, look at the relationships that we have, and we can trust that whatever challenge it is that we're facing, the information and the tools that we need are out there. It's just our responsibility to find them. Nobody's put in a position where their back is up against the wall and there's no way out. There is a way out. We just not be aware of it.
Right. And finding the right person to kind of help guide you is I think the biggest message here. And you kind of need that friend.
That's right.
So, well, listen, Glenn Johnson, if you want to get in touch with him, you can go to the website at jbezfinancial.com. Also, you can subscribe to this podcast, themanumit.podcast.com. Go there, make sure you bookmark it, click subscribe, like the videos, like the podcast. That way you're getting more of this coming your way. And again, back to the fact that, Glenn, you make this more about the relationship and less about the money, yet we're talking about the money. And that to me is if my wife is sitting here with us right now, she would literally look at you and say, okay, cool, here's all of our information, so let's just go. So that's great stuff.
Well, thank you.
My name is Jeff Miles. Another episode is coming up here in the next couple of weeks with the Manumit podcast. Again, bookmark the website, themanumit.podcast.com, jbezfinancial.com. Go to the website. Glenn, of course, you've written articles for Forbes and many other publications as well. You'll get a lot of the information. People can actually kind of go through and peruse through your website and kind of get some information kind of where they are right now on a lot of things, correct?
That's right.
All right. Well, go check it out. And we will talk to you next time. Glenn, have a great afternoon.
Thank you. You too.
Awesome.